Hello, welcome to the Daily Grind here on Latte for Monday, the 10th of November. The days are getting shorter, the days are getting colder, and the Barclays is still just as relentlessly unforgiving as always. Welcome to the show. Tonight, I'm delighted to be joined by good friend Kaynak. Kaya, my man, welcome back to the firm. How are you?
AFK, I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I hate these international breaks.
Yeah.
2 weeks now of just wondering, pondering, are our boys going to come back in one piece? Are we ready to go? Because we've got some big fixtures to come, Kaya. On tonight's show, my friend, we're going to talk about the weekend that it's just been. Is it now a two-horse race? Are Liverpool out, having defeats 5 times this season already? We're going to look at the Opta computer predictor analyst thing, which we all hate, actually. It will our Arsenal favourites to do it this year. And then we'll talk about what we have to look forward to after the international break. But just a couple of quick messages in the chat. AFC 777. Thank goodness you're here, FK. I'm bored of the international break already. It's only day one. Phoenix says, thanks for the content, FK. I'm already exhausted with these international breaks. It is the last one of 2025. Hopefully it'll come and go very, very quickly. Good evening, Guda, says V Vlad. Kaya on the Athletic podcast, Kaya on the Latte Firm. Some might say it's Kaya Monday. Lol. Well, thank you so much for making the time, mate. Really appreciate you. How have you been? How's life? How's life in the football world?
It's good. It's good. It's great from an Arsenal perspective, which we're all loving. Things are going very well. I think even despite the weekend, I'm quite enjoying things with Arsenal. Yeah, it's good. Personal life's all good. So yeah, working at the Athletic and as we've said there, yeah, doing Tifo Pod, which I'm really enjoying. So yeah, nice to be doing this again though. Good to be back here. Happy to be back.
Thank you, mate. You say all the nicest things, the sweetest things.
I mean them.
Well, I love it, mate. Flattery will get you everywhere. Welcome to Asheen. Welcome to Melissa. Welcome to everybody watching. By the way, at the end of the show, I'm going to do a draw for one of our Patreon members to come and join me to be my guest at the North London Derby. Wow. You must obviously be in the country to be able to come. No need for a membership. I will escort you into the ground. If you are overseas, if you cannot make the game, don't want to make the game, don't want to be seen anywhere near me, that's also fine. I shall reimburse you with some Arsenal vouchers of your choice so you can spend it on yourself or some loved ones. So tune in for that. Kai, there is only one place to start, and that is, of course, the Premier League weekend that we have just seen. And what a weekend it was. Unforgiving Barclays. Now, obviously, heartbreak, misery for Arsenal fans as we dropped points and conceded shots and conceded goals. But we've got to talk about it. What was your raw reaction? Or I guess, well, no, not a raw reaction. 48 hours on. Drop points at Sunderland. I described it yesterday in the match reaction video as a real roller coaster of emotions. First half was a bit dire, going into halftime, realizing we're in a proper game, would have taken a draw. That was the group chat. Those were the texts pinging around. And then, of course, 2-1 up, going into the 90th minute in injury time, only to drop 2 points. What have you made of it all?
Yeah, so I'd been at the women's game earlier in the day, so I was already in a bad mood coming into this game because I don't know if anyone in the chat or people here got to see the women's game, but there were some, let's say, controversial decisions in that game. And so I was coming into this with a hot head, shall we say. And the first half did not improve things for me. I was in an even worse mood because I thought Arsenal played poorly. I thought they weren't. I thought physically they were matching up to the test that Sunderland were trying to give them, but I felt they looked a little bit blunt in attack. And I got upset that Sunderland had a shot, and then it was a shot on target, and I was like, "What? This isn't a thing." Since when do they change the rules to allow this again? But yeah, it was. I think second half we were so good, so impressive, and so sort of title winning looking, if that makes any sense. I phrased that very poorly. But I think there was such an impressive performance, and Sunderland was so good defensively in the first half, and the fact that time and again Arsenal found ways to unlock their deep block, which is something that Arsenal are criticised for doing a lot. People say Arsenal rely on set pieces. Arsenal's biggest chances came from open play at the weekend, and Zubimendi hit the bar. Obviously, Calafiori and Marino missed chances late on. There are chances earlier on in the game. I think Saka had a chance before he scored his goal, and there's plenty of chances where Arsenal could have scored from open play. So I thought this was a game that actually, in a weird way, despite the result, actually answers a lot of questions that I think some of us might have about Arsenal in terms of their ability to create against low blocks, their ability to come up against these kind of tests, their ability to deal with when they're behind, because that hasn't happened a lot this season. So it was a game of a lot of tests. And when the goal went in at the end, obviously it was heartbreaking. I was disappointed. I was frustrated with David Raya because you can see in that picture there, he's sort of going with his hands down. I don't know why he doesn't try and punch it. But I started to think, this is the third away trip in a week. Burnley, Prague, Sunderland. It's 3 big away trips, 3 long away trips. And I think the second you start to think about that and how good Sunderland have been this season, they've not lost at home. I think they're fourth in the league, which no one saw coming, and that Granit Xhaka got a point out of it. You start to think, well, you know what, maybe it's not the end of the world. And I can take a point. It was obviously upsetting to lose it, but I think about 5 minutes after full time, I was like, you know what, that's a really good result.
I think it is literally just about how the story unfolded of the game. You know, I've gone through all the scenarios in my head. Like I just said a minute ago, halftime, we're all messaging each other saying, serious game. Would you take a draw? Probably. And then obviously to go 2-1 up, the narrative in your mind is like, oh my God, this is the stuff of champions. This is it. We're going to do it. Like, what a comeback. And to go to Sunderland, who are in fine form. And then, of course, you know, the dagger at the end, the sort of rush of blood to the head for David Raya to kind of come out, and Gabriel Magalhaes trying to be a bit cute and trying to win a free kick. And of course, we conceded right at the death. Even despite that, Kaya, we went straight up the other end and almost had another chance. And Calafiori, the header could have gone in. Marino on another day. Dan Ballard makes an incredible block. Right, you know, a yard off the goal line. I mean, it was just a hectic sort of finish. But, you know, had we been 1-0 down and had we have scored an injury time and equaliser, we're probably thinking, yeah, it's a point gained. But here we are talking about points dropped. It's amazing how the narrative of football just changes, right?
Yeah, massively so. And I think this was a day where a lot of the focus was on Arsenal. Can they keep extending the lead? Man City and Liverpool playing the next day. And I think a lot of people trying to frame this as Arsenal need to win to kind of lay down a marker or to extend the lead and that kind of thing. But Arsenal have got themselves into such a good position now, and they're so far ahead, and we'll get onto the others, that it kind of doesn't matter as much what they're doing. And Arsenal just need to focus on what they're doing. And yeah, you say the narrative of football changes very quickly. For me, I think the narrative of Arsenal season kind of stayed the same off the back of this game, where I feel really confident going into any game that we're able to get a result in any kind of game. Burnley game was very different to this. We had everything our own way. Burnley could barely get out their own half. And that was because we played really well, but it was massively different to this. Sunderland gave us, I think, probably our sternest test all season. And I think we stood up to it pretty well. I think the second half was some of the best football we played all season. Genuinely, I thought we were fantastic. I just thought we were unlucky to concede at the end. And yeah, in my opinion, it's a goalkeeping error. And I think, you know, David Raya's allowed one of those after the season he's had. So yeah, I think the narrative football, as you can say, changes very quickly. But I think across the season, none of my I don't feel doubtful about Arsenal off the back of this game. If anything, I feel more confident about their ability and their title credentials, which might sound perverse, but it's just how I'm feeling right now. Yeah.
No, listen, I can't blame you. I think all the factors kind of show that we've had a really good start to the season. 10 wins in all competitions, 8 clean sheets on the bounce in the Premier League. And at some point, you're going to concede a shot on goal. At some point, you're going to concede a goal. I think it's just gutting that the way that the story went, 1-0 down, 2-1 up, and then obviously 2-2 at the death. And I think you're right about David Raya. I think, you know, keepers in particular have to make decisions in the split moment that they're in, and he either goes for it or he doesn't. In the end, he's gone for it. It's kind of, you know, a deft touch over the goalkeeper into the back of the net, and he looks silly. On another day, he stands on the goal line and just catches that with one hand. So I can't knock it. Lots of people saying, yep, goalkeeping error. I think it was a goalkeeping error. Asheen asks as well. And just some praise for Xhaka, who I thought played really well, and Sunderland played really well. I think they'd have been very hard done by had they have not got anything from the game. Let's turn our attentions to the champions yesterday at the Etihad Stadium. Torn apart, dismantled with ease by Manchester City. Erling Haaland, the robot up top amongst the goal scorers, and Jeremy Doku really taking off this season. What did you make of yesterday's showdown?
Yeah, again, it was another game that kind of confirmed a lot of my sort of conceptions going into the game, particularly about Liverpool, where they were good against Real Madrid and they brought back a lot of the players from last season, but they're still a team that kind of don't know what they are, which is weird given that they had such a clear identity under Arne Slot last season. But they brought in so many players, they spent so much money. And the fact that Isak and Wirtz I know Wirtz started the game, but Isak was not involved and Wirtz was kind of anonymous. That's nearly £300 million worth of signings right there who haven't really done an awful lot. And I think weirdly, by spending so much money and by objectively, you know, strengthening their squad, Liverpool have maybe not done themselves that many favours, because they look a team that are kind of figuring themselves out. They don't look like they have an identity. Arne Slot doesn't seem to know whether to stick or twist, because against Real Madrid and against Aston Villa, he went back to essentially the team from last season. He did that for the whole week, and it's kind of backfired on him because there are obvious flaws within within Liverpool, that you can find, and City exploited them really well. As for City, I'm not still quite on the hype train that they're back, as it were, because I still think that this Manchester City team will drop points against teams who you'd expect them to win again throughout the rest of the season. I don't quite think they're as impenetrable as maybe some of their recent form suggests. I think there are glaring flaws that they haven't quite fixed. And listen, Arsenal have flaws too, but I think Arsenal are much more adept at hiding their flaws, whereas I think City have some vulnerabilities. I still think you can get at them in certain ways. And Liverpool, despite how poorly they played, there's the goal there. Gakpo had a really good chance. Like, they still could have scored a couple of goals. And I just think neither of these two. Listen, I'm wary of jinxing anything, but I didn't see two teams here who I thought were better than Arsenal this season. I'm not saying, I won't go as far as to say the league's done or anything like that. It's stupid. But I didn't see two teams who I thought, oh yeah, you're better than Arsenal played this season, because I think Arsenal have been the best team by a distance, and I saw nothing on Sunday that made me change my mind.
Wow. And what do you make of the story that's kind of broken today about Liverpool contacting PGMOL, according to Sky Sports, over the significant concerns about the disallowed goal? Andy Robertson, of course, ruled out for offside as Virgil van Dijk nodded into the corner. What did you make of it when you were watching it live, and what have you made of all the story that's kind of unfolded today?
Yeah, I think it should stand as a goal. I don't think Donnarumma is getting there. I think it's a mistake, and I think they probably should have stuck with the on-field decision. Oh no, sorry, the on-field decision was offside. They just took ages to do it, didn't they? But I think it screams of like a deflection tactic for me, trying to shift the narrative away from Liverpool being really poor to PGMOL a disgrace. It's a bad refereeing decision. If Liverpool had got 1-1, I'm still not convinced they would have been able to go on and win that game. I know momentum's a big part of it, but Arne Slot himself said that if they had got the goal, they wouldn't have deserved to be level. They deserved to lose. They were the worst team by a distance in the first half. They got things together a little bit in the second half. But yeah, like I say, as someone who is obviously in the media and knows how these journalistic narratives work, it strikes me as an attempt to kind of shift the conversation away from how bad Liverpool have been this season, from a team who have lost more games already this season than they did in the entirety of last Premier League. And it's an attempt to shift away from the glaring flaws of Virgil van Dijk, Konate, left back in Kirkes, who doesn't look like anything near the player we saw at Bournemouth, a midfield that doesn't have any balance, a centre forward apart from Ekitike, and Alexander Isak, who has yet to get going, a right winger in Mo Salah, who was the best player in the league last season and now looks really poor. This isn't making me forget any of that. It might make some people forget it, but I think it's important that we don't forget it and we don't sort of focus on this, because Liverpool, they're a big club and they deserve all the noise around them that they're getting right now, because they're not playing up to the standards of being a big club. And I think it would be, I think hopefully people won't dwell on this too much, because it's important that we talk about the tactics that Liverpool have as an issue, because I think they've kind of shot themselves in the foot.
They have indeed. Long may it continue. KSSNYW makes a really, really good point here. Can you imagine the narrative meltdown, Kaya, amongst many of your colleagues had Arsenal have contacted the PGMOL and rival fans? I mean, it is. I think you've summed it up. It's deflection of the highest order. What's that? 5 defeats in 6, 6 defeats in 7 now for Liverpool, the reigning champions. 5 defeats in the Premier League. 500 million euros on such awesome talent over the summer, yet somehow they're just so much worse.
Yeah, Liverpool, I guess, so if Arsenal had done this, I'd be disappointed. I was disappointed kind of when they made the statements, and listen, I might not get much love in the chat for this, but I was disappointed with the statements after the Newcastle game. I was disappointed with some statements I think that came out later, and I kind of feel like these statements of any team who does them, and lots of teams have done them in the past, I don't really see what the point is. I don't get what you're trying to achieve, because you're not going to get points back. Like, they're not going to change. Chris Kavanagh is going to referee games again throughout the rest of the season. The same touchline officials linesmen will referee throughout the rest of the season. Nothing will change on that front. So I kind of feel like there's not much point to it, especially given that it's not like, and when Arsenal did against Newcastle, at least you could argue that if the goal hadn't stood, it would have been 0-0 and they would have drawn. In this game, there's no way that Liverpool would have gone on to win that game, or that they would have drawn the game. I think City were by far the better team. So I don't think you can try and spin it that way. And it's like we said before, it's such a thinly veiled narrative. It feels so disappointing for Liverpool. I kind of expected them to kind of look within themselves and not start pointing figures. And one thing I really like about Arne Slot actually is he's very honest in his post-match press conferences. He kind of says it how it is. This doesn't feel like that. This feels like a shift away from that, and that's really disappointing from them. And like we said before, like you said, that they're a team that have a lot of flaws, and I don't see with the current squad that they have available to them how they fix a lot of those flaws. Like Conor Bradley was absolutely isolated against Jeremy Doku yesterday. Mo Salah, as I said, is the best right winger, or was the best right winger in the world last season. You're going to try and give him that extra yard up top to allow him to cheat defensively, which means you have to find ways of dealing with that. And Arne Slot hasn't, and they haven't found the balance that they had last season. And there are massive issues in Liverpool. And yeah, I think, to be honest, I think it's probably safe to say they're not in the title race. You've got that picture on the side of the table. They're not even in the top 6. I think it's probably fair to say that they're looking at trying to salvage a top 4 finish this season, which, given they were Champions winners last season, is a massive drop off. And I think it's a real disappointment from them.
Ragamuffin, naughty. A bigger deflection than Van Dijk for the second goal. Long may that continue. Just while you were talking about sort of Liverpool in the league, 8th place, but of course it's only a couple of points that separate 3rd and 9th. I think City, of course, now climbing into 2nd, and we're 4 points clear going into this international break. Incidentally, that is 1 point better off than going into the last international break. So we've technically extended our lead. This is the Opta computer, which so many people hate. I have no idea the metrics, the mechanics of how this kind of works, but there we have it. Arsenal are top of the Premier League, and we currently have a percentage of 63.6% chance title win probability. Manchester City with a 22.9% chance, despite only being 4 points behind, and Liverpool, as you can see, flagging at the bottom there with a 7% chance. I guess the question to you here is, Kaya, are we favourites for the league, and is it now a 2-horse race?
Yeah, I hate these things too. They change every week. They're kind of pointless. It's like, here's how it was after the week. I was actually talking to a colleague of mine today, and we were discussing how this works. I think how this works is they take expected points models and kind of do it across the whole rest of the season if it were to continue. And then they kind of simulate various different simulations, and then the percentage is how many of those simulations Arsenal win the league in. So I think that's how that works. So sorry if I've explained it. I'm sure people will be telling me in the comments if I've got it wrong. But I think it's fair to say Arsenal are favourites because I think we're the most complete team. I think if you look at what we've had to deal with already in terms of no Odegaard, no Madueke, no Gyökeres, no Havertz, no Jesus, Saka's missed a large chunk of the season. They've had injuries in defence. Saliba's missed a large chunk of the season. And we're still kind of bobbing along quite serenely at the top. And the only reason we've lost the game is because Dominic Szoboszlai scored possibly the best free kick I've ever seen. Like, I think this is a team who are complete. And as I've said, I don't see teams in Man City and Liverpool who look like they're as good as Arsenal right now. I'm not saying that things can't change, and we've seen in the past that maybe Arsenal, when it comes to the crunch, sometimes it doesn't always go to plan. And I think we're all quite scarred by previous seasons, which is why none of us are getting too far ahead of ourselves. But yeah, I think it's fair to say Arsenal are favourites. I think we're probably favourites by a distance, and that's because of the squad we've got, that's because of the manager we've got, and it's because of the performance we've been putting in so far. So I think we kind of have to accept we're favourites and wear that tag with pride, because it's kind of a compliment and it means that we're really good, which I think everyone who's watching this video and everyone who's talking on this video would think and agree that we are really, really good.
We are really good, and hopefully we've learned, as Misunderstood Ninja says, we had a lead in 22-23 and we blew it. Did we learn? I hope so. And Danny says that City still have to go to Anfield, St James's, Old Trafford, the Bridge, Spurs, etc. in the second half of the season. Talking of fixtures, tasty fixtures, this is what's to come. The Barclays is about to get tasty. We've got some really challenging fixtures straight after this international break, Kaya, and we'll talk about the players that are set to return on the next slide. But with the Champions League chucked in there as well, Bayern Munich coming to the Emirates, Arsenal will open after the international break with a North London derby, the Super Sunday 4:30 kickoff against Spurs at home. We then go to Chelsea away after Bayern Munich, Brentford at home, and Brentford have really picked up in recent weeks, some really impressive wins, most recently against Newcastle, and then Villa away. Unai Emery's men beating Bournemouth by 4-0 yesterday. City, on the other hand, they go to St James's, where Newcastle are not really performing this year. There's a lot of pressure on Eddie Howe and the team. And then, of course, Leeds at home, newly promoted Leeds, Fulham away, and Sunderland, who have obviously just given us a pretty tough game on Saturday. The next 4 for each team are going to be quite tasty, and it's going to play and decide a lot of the narrative in the media that we read into the run-up to the festive season.
Yeah, I think it's a big period coming up for Arsenal, but I think they have the abilities to deal with it. I think that Tottenham are not a particularly good side. I think it's interesting that Tottenham will play in a way that a lot of teams have played against us this season. They'll probably sit in a deep block and try and hit us on the counter-attack. So that might be difficult to deal with. And Thomas Frank, despite what people say, I think is a pretty decent coach and can coach a compact team. So that would be difficult. Chelsea are a team who are so inconsistent that it's impossible to know what you're going to get from them. They seem to raise their level in big games, and Arsenal haven't beaten them at Stamford Bridge, I think, in a little while now. So it'd be nice to get that. But again, you're looking at these games and you're thinking, if Arsenal can get 4 points from Spurs and Chelsea, you'd be pretty happy with that. Brentford at home is a game I expect Arsenal to win. Like you say, Brentford are looking better, but a lot of their recent results have come at home. Away from home, they're probably not as strong, and they won't have Reece Nelson on their side, so that's a negative for them. And we have Christian Norgard, so even better for us. Aston Villa away, I think, is a tricky game because Unai he can put a game plan together. He knows how to kind of, for 90 minutes, Unai is not a manager you want to be coming up against at all. So it's a tough run of fixtures. But listen, we said a tough run of fixtures at the start of this season. I just was going back through photos on my phone. I found a screenshot of the 10 fixtures that Arsenal were supposed to go through. And 10 fixtures that Arsenal had to start the league. And I think from that, we got, was it 24 points from our first 10? And included in that was Newcastle away, City at home, Liverpool away, United away, others that are escaping my mind at the minute, but lots of difficult games. And we came through it unscathed, and we came through it looking pretty imperious. So there's nothing I see from this team so far that doesn't give me confidence that Arsenal can come out and get some good results here. I guess the fear is that if Arsenal, let's just say, draw against Spurs and City win, suddenly that gap goes from 4 points to 2, and it's starting to get a little bit nervy. And I think it's up to us to kind of, as fans, to hold our nerve a bit and just be a bit more confident and just not lose ourselves just yet, because I think a lot of people, maybe after the weekend and City getting a 3-0 win against Liverpool and us dropping points, are starting to think, well, maybe it's time to get a bit nervy, sit here on our tails. This is when it starts to fall apart. I don't see that for this Arsenal team. I think it's up to us to try and just keep as calm as possible, maintain faith in the team, because, I think it's a team that can win a league across the course of the season. And, hopefully they'll have some big players back that we'll get onto, I think, just now. So,
Well, just because you've probably terrified half the people who are watching about Manchester City and the robot they've got up top and the form that they've got and the experience they've got and how they might close the gap over this sort of run of fixtures, let's just remind Arsenal fans and those watching who are to return. I mean, I love this. Avengers assemble, call in the cavalry, whatever you want to call it. And I say Avengers because Han of Arsenal tweeted yesterday about just reflecting on how good Arsenal are. And I called Kimo AFC, who's one of the best compilation makers on the platform, to kind of just make something for us over the international break, get the juices flowing just in time for the North London derby. But look at the talent that is due to return to this team. And there's no Gabby Jesus on this page for starters, but Martin Odegaard, club captain, has been out for so long. He's the one who dictates that sort of tempo and just gets us ticking in the final third and triggers that press. We love him and we can't wait to see him back. Noni Madueke, who had such an impressive start to his time at Arsenal. And, he was just getting into the flow and looking really good. And then all of a sudden, that injury. Victor Gyökeres, his best 45 minutes away at Burnley just a few days ago. And of course now missing, but he is going to come back. Kai Havertz, such a great player. We know his work rate, his distance covered, the fact that he scores goals in big games. Can't wait to see him back. And of course, Gabby Martinelli, who's been playing really well in that sort of in and out with Leo Trossard on the left-hand side. This is serious, not just talent, but firepower, Kaya. Surely, Arsenal fans, when you look at this page, you kind of just feel that zing again, that confidence that actually we can do this.
Yeah, I agree. I think you get that feeling that you had at the start of the season when all these players were involved, and you start to think, oh yeah, this is a really good team. And on top of Trossard, on top of Saka, on top of Ethan Nwaneri, on top of Eberechi Eze, on top of Mikel Merino, who suddenly turned to this goal-scoring wonder guy. Like, this is a team with a lot of firepower once they're ready. And I think we all remember how good Noni was in those first few games. We know how good Martin Odegaard is. Gyökeres, I think, played his best 45 minutes before he got injured against Burnley. Kai Havertz, we know how good he is. Martinelli has actually surprised me with how good he's been this season, because I'll hold my hands up. I was someone who thought that maybe it was time to cash in on this summer if Arsenal could. But I think he's proved me wrong, and I think he's shown his real value to the squad. So this is a team that, let's say in the North London derby, it's 0-0 and God forbid it's 0-0 and Spurs are getting a little bit cocky with about 15, 20 minutes to go. Bring these 5 on. How cocky are you now? This is a proper team. And this is the kind of depth that you need to win a Premier League, in my opinion. And it's what Arsenal have. It's what they're getting back. And the beauty of it is none of these 5 need to be rushed back. None of these 5 need to come back in straight away and sort of save our season, which means that we can ease them back in, which means that hopefully we can have them ready and firing by the time we get into that proper churn fixture time around Christmas. And that's when we'll need them all to be coming in and really making a difference. So I think it's massive for Arsenal to have all these guys back. The fact they're all coming back seemingly at once is amazing. And yeah, it's really exciting for what's to come. And I just need to comment on how Martin Odegaard's haircut there. I'm a big fan. I want to see it more on the pitch.
You know, as soon as he shaves that beard,
yeah,
the Barclays is in trouble.
Yeah,
I mean, look, I think it's a timely reminder that, you know, we are top of the league and we've had a phenomenal run of games and clean sheets and results, and we're 4 points clear, having had so many injuries to so many key players. These aren't just like fringe players. All of these 5 are starters for Arsenal, or maybe not at the same time, but they're all capable of being starters for Arsenal. We haven't even talked about Piero Hincapié and Ben White, who doesn't seem to be getting much game time. Excuse me. We know what Christian Mosquera is like. Norgard really hasn't had an impact just yet. So Lewis Skelly being left out of the touchline, our squad is stacked. And I think, you know, after the way that we dropped points on Saturday and after all of the sort of media narrative about, oh, it's all falling apart and Liverpool fans were getting lively, weren't they, on Saturday night? You know, win tomorrow and we're going to win the league. I'm convinced Arsenal are going to bottle it again. The North London derby is the perfect fixture, I think, after the international break to just get the bit between your teeth again. You know, beat Spurs, lay it down, 3 points, you go again in the run up to December. I can't wait. I can't wait. A comment here from Phoenix, excuse me, has grabbed my attention as I just move away from the slide deck. He says, look at it from this perspective. We are first despite 6 attackers out. We have a few players returning after the break as well. The players look hungry, getting upset every time we concede, determined. Yeah, Han of Arsenal was saying that the Arsenal camp have been discussing Saturday almost as a defeat, and the mood is very much one of wanting to seek revenge on our next opponents. And our next opponents are Spurs, and that is how we're going to end the show. So thanks, Kaya, for tuning in. Really appreciate it and for contributing. Our Patreon members, listen, the Patreon community has been going live now for a few months, and just a couple of weeks ago, I sort of achieved the milestone of 100 Patreon contributors to the channel. Really grateful. Such a great community that we've got there. Thank you, Kaya. The people who make the chat. The chats are active. The chats are fun. There's really good sort of vibes on a match day and in the run up to games and obviously shows. And there's been lots of giveaways over the last few months since I've been going. I'm so grateful for all the support. But to celebrate that, there is, of course, a shirt coming as well that's going to come after the North London derby. But I want to give away 1 North London derby ticket. Be my guest on that day. And to do that, I'm just going to see if I can work my magic on this. Give me 1 second, Kaya. There's a draw generator, believe it or not, that you can get. I think we've done a draw before, haven't we? With you on the show. I think it was Champions League tickets, wasn't it? Yeah. Let me do this. Right. So here we go. Wheel of names. I don't know if you guys can see that. Here we go. And it just, ooh, look at that. Okay. So we have a wheel of names. And these are all the Patreon members in the community actively sort of supporting the channel, which is immensely gratefully received. And basically, all I have to do, Kaya, is just press the middle button and it will start the spin. So do you want to count me down? 3, 2, 1?
Sure. 3, 2, 1.
This for a ticket to the North London derby. To be my guest at the Emirates on the 23rd of November, Super Sunday, 4:30 kickoff at the Carpet. Here we go. I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited. Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? It is Adam Silito. Hopefully I've pronounced your name correctly. Adam Silito or Skilito. There we are. Adam, welcome. Congratulations to winning this draw. I will reach out to you via the DMs or via private message on Patreon. I'm hoping that you are London based and are able to come to the game. You will be my guest. If you cannot make it, if you're overseas and you're supporting from high and far, I would love to reimburse you with some vouchers to arsenal.com just to show my gratitude for you supporting the channel. Maybe you can spend it on yourself or some loved ones. So Adam Skilito, my apologies. Congrats. How do you pronounce that?
I'm going Silito. I think you've got it right first time. Yeah.
Silito. Adam, congratulations, my friend. Really, really grateful for your support more than anything else. This is just a small token, and I hope you appreciate it. But thank you so much for tuning in. Kai, we're going to leave it there. If anybody wants to follow Kai, he's available at Kaynak 97. What are your plans for international break? Are you going to tune in, or are you just going to chill and do some content?
counting down the days. That's my plans. Now I'm going away to Belgium with my five-a-side team. We're going on a little tour, so it's going to be a fun little weekend away. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah,
cool. And not many people know this, but you are in fact Arsenal's Per Mertesacker. You're 6'6".
Yes.
Where do you play five-a-side? Are you in goal? I mean, the goal must be very small. Are you at the back?
I'm anywhere they'll let me play, to be honest. As long as I've got the cannon on my chest, I'm happy to be out on the pitch. I'll die for the team. That's my approach.
I love that. Mikel Arteta would absolutely love you. Those are the standards. Listen, thanks everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate that. I hope you've enjoyed that on this Monday. Like I say, international break now. A couple of weeks of dry days, just waiting for the fixtures to come. And the North London derby is up next. Look after yourselves, sleep well, take care, and enjoy your evenings. Bye for now.